The Black Lotus, the prestigious and expensive crown jewel of Magic the Gathering. It predates Charizard, but it's accurate to say that this is Magic's Charizard. There are people who know very little about Magic that have a tangential awareness of a Lotus. The card is absolutely nutso busted, giving you a burst of 3 mana on the turn you play it, perhaps even turn 1. It can end games on the spot as you resolve a Haymaker 3 turns early, or engage in some infamous combo that ends the game. But it isn't just the power level of the card within the game that makes it worth a pretty penny, because, well, it's not legal in most formats. The most commonly played formats like Commander and Standard, you can't play a Black Lotus. The other reason it's so expensive is that it's super rare. It was only ever printed in 3 sets back in the ancient bygone times of the 90s. Only around 25,000 copies were ever printed, 1,100 in alpha, 3,300 in beta, and roughly 22,800 in unlimited. It's no wonder that this absolute powerhouse of a broken and iconic Magic card is worth a pretty penny. And with around 25,000 of them printed, you've also got to consider that some of those got destroyed and maimed and didn't stand the test of time. Imagine how many were used as drinks coasters when their value was not understood, especially when their value was much lower back in the day, or stuck in the spokes of a bike to make the bike go burr. The exact number of Lotuses in the wild is actually kind of up for debate because of this, but it's a tiny, minuscule amount compared to any other rare in the game, other than perhaps other alpha rares. Compared to modern Magic rares that are printed hundreds of thousands of times, it is a tiny number. But what if I told you it's not the most expensive, and it's definitely not the most rare of all Magic the Gathering cards? What if I told you that in fact there are quite a few cards that are coveted and sought after far more? Oh, isn't that tantalizing? Isn't that exciting? But in order to afford my own Black Lotus one day, or perhaps more realistically pay my mortgage, here's a quick message from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by ZBiotics. The smart science people at ZBiotics have created a drink that breaks down the byproduct of alcohol that causes the worst morning after effects of alcohol. Alcohol leaves behind acetaldehyde, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and the genetically engineered enzyme found in this probiotic looks to break that down with an altered, naturally occurring probiotic bacteria found in natto, or natto. Again, I probably should have looked up pronunciations. Yes, that's natto, as in fermented soybeans, the superfood from Japan. I've said it recently how I've moved away from having casual drinks. I do actually quite enjoy drinking alcohol, both getting drunk and just the taste of fancy alcohols too. But I moved away from it because it was making the days afterwards were not productive. But honestly, drinking one of these and having a couple of alcoholic beverages in the evening had me feeling pretty damn good the next day. I even did some day drinking with cocktails in London recently with some friends, and I still had a productive day the next day. They of course still recommend that you drink responsibly, hydrate, and get rested. I've got a bachelor party coming up, known as a stag do where I'm from, and a wedding, and I ain't doing no wedding sober. ZBiotics is going to be my ace in the hole to have a productive morning the day after. ZBiotics is offering 15% off your first order of their pre-alcohol probiotic. All you need to do is use the link in the description below and use the code Kenobi at checkout. That's zbiotics.com/Kenobi to get 15% off your first order. They come in 3s, 6s, 12s, 50s, or 100 packs, and they have 100% money back guaranteed if you're not satisfied. A link in the description below, and thanks to ZBiotics for sponsoring this video. Right, been off those Black Lotuses, hell, just send them to me if you want. So let's talk about things that are slightly rarer, and perhaps even more valuable. This is going to be one of the biggest stretches in the video, but I wanted to get out of the way early and talk about playtest cards. And I'm not talking about playtest cards from Mystery Booster, I'm talking about the playtest cards actually used by designers of Magic the Gathering to test sets and cards before they come out. In the modern day, these things will be stuck in a sleeve with another card to allow shuffling and playing. In an article from 2016, Sam Stoddard explains that they would often use blanks to write onto to test new card concepts that they wanted to add to the database of potential designs for a set, or in order to put a deck together for the Future League, a format where they test the standard of the future in order to try and see if things are balanced with the next set. So if anyone ever gives you shit for proxying a card in Commander again, tell them to fuck off. Once in a database, they can be printed and stuck in a sleeve, like I said, much more professional, much more efficient. However, the early ones have become relics and have become sought after by collectors as collector's items if they ever leak into the wild. And I'm not talking about test cards from Ikoria or Magic Origins or even older bygone sets like Kamigawa or Mirrodin. I'm talking real early here. These are the test cards for the OG set. These are what are called Gamma playtest cards, the third rendition of playtest cards that were given out to a larger group, estimated to be around 40 people, to playtest the game before it was finalized and went to print. which resulted in the creation of Magic as we know it today and the first set now known as Alpha. There were even older versions of cards beyond Gamma, hand-drawn by the game's creator Richard Garfield for the original Alpha test, various for the beta test too, but I have never seen any of these in the wild and couldn't find a record of a sale on a cursory Google. This shit is mythical in the truest sense of the word. The Gammas though, they do crop up. You see them in cabinets at events sometimes at some GPs. There's some of them on display in museums like one of the ones in Seattle. And they showed up in an episode of Pawn Stars this year. The game store owner they called in as their expert suggested that the price per card was around $400. I believe this lowball was because none of the Power 9 or super desirable iconic cards are in this person's collection, but that did seem very low to me. I thought $500, I think that's cheap. Star City Games ran an article on the appearance where their general manager Ben Blue-Eyes said they also seemed cheap to him, suggesting that if they were graded and came back at least a 7, which they look pretty good condition honestly, even the worst ones among them might be worth upwards of $1,000. Much like the real Magic cards, the more iconic, the fancier, the more powerful ones are worth a bit more. Things like Time Walk and Lotuses or even Shivan Dragons. At time of recording there's a graded Time Walk CGC 8 on eBay for $35,900. Note this is probably a little inflated as a buy it now price, but more excitingly, note that in development Time Walk was only 3 mana. I guess it really wasn't good enough at 3 mana and they had to buff it before release to 2 mana. Fucking wild. On the topic of testing, let's talk about test prints. Whilst testing the way the game plays is obviously important, testing how it looks in terms of borders, foils, and frames is also pretty important and tends to lead to more discarded product. They actually print cards to see how they would look. There are test prints for all sorts of things, from foils to MDFCs to the split cards that merge together during Eldritch Moon. But some of them are more rare and more exciting than others. Back when Unglued was being designed, there was a consideration of putting it in a different frame, or a frame that might be futuristic. There's also entire sheets of 8th edition's frame complete with cards that don't actually exist in the game. They were just things that happened to be on the sheet for some reason. And of course, there's the first ever foils, and these are some of the real premium ones. City of Traitors, a card that is worth $250 now for the bog standard non-foil because it's reserve list. They were printed in limited numbers in various versions of foils, with different colouring in the frame and all sorts of differences to test out different looks for foils. And note that City of Traitors has never been printed in foil since. The reserve list means it's never been reprinted. These foils are rare as rocking horse shit. And because I've played a lot of City of Traitors and Legacy, it does interest me to find out what a foil would be worth. But sales of it are few and far between, with reports of one selling in 2018 for around $10,000. That's 4 years ago and before the reserve list spikes too. That was when the non-foils were around $100. They're now $250 each. The other interesting thing about these is that the sale of these is a little bit iffy. Some people will claim that they are illegal to be sold because they were originally stolen from Wizards. They were not put out into the wild or given to, supposedly given to staff or anything like that. They were stolen from the production facility. So this is stolen goods. I've seen people say that if you were to sell one of these test prints, especially the City of Traitors, that would be something that could be reported to the police. How true that is, I guess we'll never know unless it actually happens. The other one that I did want to mention beyond the cities, though, is things like the Gaia's Cradle that has no fucking text on it. Or how about an Ulamog with the wrong CMC? There are some crazy test prints out there, and these things are... they're super rare, like rarer than a Lotus, even if they don't demand the same price tag as a Lotus. But they're still not the rarest thing out there. We now come to completely rare one-offs, like unique Magic cards that don't exist anywhere else. It's 1996. Most people haven't used the internet at this point, and those that have may or may not have used it to masturbate with or be involved with cybersex. The 1996 World Championship is held at the head office of Wizards of the Coast in Seattle. An Australian gentleman by the name of Tom Chanpeng wins the event. In addition to his $26,000 prize pot for first place, he was awarded the 1996 World Champion MTG card, a one-off and unique Magic the Gathering card encased in a trophy. At the time, it was the first 5-colour Magic card. It was the first 5-colour legend, beating out Sliver Queen by approximately 2 years. Its power and toughness are equal to your opponent's life total. It cannot be targeted, and it can be tutored from deck to top of library by discarding your hand, an ability that is truly unique and doesn't exist within Magic to date, at least yet. And I hope it never does. Weirdly, it isn't actually that good. This would probably not beat out Dark Depths combo or just making an Emrakul in Legacy as a win con if it was legal and playable. It's just not very good. A simple Karakas puts a fly in the ointment, shall we say. However, discarding your entire hand to dredge, though, might make this busted as shit if it were legal in Vintage. But like I said, ultimately the card isn't for play. It is trapped within inside a fucking trophy. It was reportedly sold by the original winner for tens of thousands back in 2001. It then showed up on eBay in 2017 for $200,000. The sale was removed, though, and not completed, and even had a unique image that people thought might make it not a scam, because no one had seen this image with his hand in the art before, or whoever's hand that is. We don't really know. But it being removed basically confirmed that it was fake. 200,000 is also a lot, but honestly, for a unique Magic the Gathering card that's part of the game's history, I wouldn't be surprised if it could fetch something like that. Where is the world champion now, and how much is it worth? Well, at present time, we just don't know. But it's absolutely rarer than even the artist proofs of Lotus that we're coming to in a moment, and at the very least, costs more than an unlimited, ungraded Lotus. I do wonder if it will ever show up again in the high-end movers and shakers kind of groups in private sellers. I'll be excited to see it show up. Shichifukujin Dragon is our next one. That's right, I pronounced it once and I'm never pronouncing it again. This card is also a one-of-a-kind. Mechanically, the card is absolutely fucking terrible, and I kind of like that. This one-of-a-kind, super rare card is just a funny oddity from the game's past, and is crap. This was not a tournament prize, though. This was to commemorate the opening of the DCI Tournament Center in Japan, as Magic started to make headway outside of America. It and the 1996 World Champion were both designed by Mark Rosewater. It's another relic from 1996 as well, weirdly. It surprises me that there have not been similar cards like this since to commemorate the game's birthday or similar. Based upon a deity of luck from traditional Japanese culture, another interesting note of this is that it had to be designed in an hour by Mark Rosewater, and luckily didn't need to be playtested. So remarkably similar design process to that of Modern Horizons 1 and 2. That was a joke. Kinda. Both of these cards were limited print ones where the others were destroyed. Something we saw Flesh and Blood doing a lot more publicly in a video recently with some promos, and something that I want to address and talk about in more detail in a video soon. But lastly, let's talk about artist proofs. Post Malone is a man with a lot of fucking money, and he admitted on the Howard Stern show recently to buying an artist proof Christopher Rush Black Lotus.
What is the highest amount of money you ever paid for a Magic the Gathering card?
$800,000.
Unfucking-believable. Look at you. $800,000.
It was an artist print. Chris Rush signed Black Lotus.
That's a lot of terms there. Let's unpack that a bit. Yes, this is a cheat in many ways because it is a Lotus, so it's not more rare than Lotus. It's kind of one of the rarest Lotus, but bear with me. There was a commemorative thing given to artists by Wizard of the Coast. They are artist proofs. They are magic cards on the front and they're blank on the back. They allow them to hold on to them or sell them on as trinkets and rarities. You'll often see artists selling these for more modern cards with art or signatures on the back, and you can see these at GPs a lot. This one is unique though because it's Christopher Rush, perhaps the most famous and iconic of all of Magic the Gathering's artists. That's not unfair to say. He did the art for the original Lotus. He did the art for 1996 World Champion and the Dragon that I'm not going to try pronouncing as well, because when they wanted special shit done, he was called in. He was one of the original artists. Sadly, he has passed away now, but for him to have an artist proof in the wild of the most iconic card in existence, and to have it signed as well. According to Mr. Malone, he bought it for $800,000, making it one of the dearest, if not the dearest known big ticket Magic card sale at time of recording. Absolutely fucking bonkers money, but a part of the game's history, and it's kind of exciting. Posty, if you see this, I'd love to play some Commander with you. I'd also like to maybe hold the Christopher Rush proof. Would that be okay? Reach out to me. So there we have it. Some cards that are rarer or dearer than your Alpha Lotuses. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Did I miss some? There are a couple that actually didn't make the list that might make a further video. I want to see if you guys know which ones I'm referring to in the comment section below. Thank you to Zbiotics for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you all soon. Ta-ta for now.